Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back with another episode of Daily Palantir. On today's show, we've got a big story to start off with, and then we got a couple other stories. Stanley Druckenmiller, as you guys probably saw in the thumbnail, he's back in Palantir. He left about 2 years ago. Now he's back. I want to analyze why he's back. Do I think he's going to add more? Some of the stuff he said about Alex Karp a couple years ago. And if he thinks Palantir can be the company that he had a lot of success with over the past 2 years, which is NVIDIA. We got to talk about that. I want to react to one of the parts of the Shyam podcast I didn't get to react to yesterday, and then a new video from Palantir based on their new business model on scaling to anyone with a credit card that we talked about a couple weeks ago. They got a new video update on what they're doing there. A lot to get into. Let's get into it. All right, let's get started with our biggest news of the day. Stanley Druckenmiller is back into Palantir. Today, he disclosed a new position in the company, 770,000 shares at an average of $21.30. Now, he was one of the first original investors at $8. I even think before that he got into the company, but he sold at around $8, $9 back in 2022. And to be honest, as I say in this tweet, it wasn't the worst move. He took the money, put it into NVIDIA at 150. NVIDIA is now 950, so he's done exceptionally well on NVIDIA. Palantir was dead money for basically a year, roundabout, a little bit less than a year. And then we finally broke out to 9, 10, 12, 15, and we got all the way up to 27 a couple months ago. But we broke out after a while, and really AIP, boot camps, gap profitability, that's what allowed us to break out. Druckenmiller did not want to stay and be part of that journey, and he's managing a lot of money, so he has to be able to get a return on that money, and you don't want that money to be dead for a while. He has now sold 71% of his NVIDIA position. This was disclosed yesterday on the 13F and 13Gs that were released, and he's back into Palantir. Now, this is a small position for Druckenmiller. It's about less than 1% of his overall portfolio, so it's not like he's playing or betting the farm the way he did on Microsoft and NVIDIA in 2022, but it does show that he's willing to pay a premium for Palantir, almost a little bit, a 2.5x premium on the original price he had around $8, because he likely sees there is an opportunity not just investing in GPUs and the training for the LLMs, but the infrastructure that actually makes LLMs popular and useful in the first place. Let's look at this video. This is a video back in September of 2022 when Druckenmiller compared Alex Karp and Palantir to Steve Jobs. We'll react to this video right after this and then keep going from there.
So there was a guy named Steve Jobs, and he broke the number one rule of business is he made products, not that the customer was demanding. He made this product and assumed if I make it, they will come. I kind of get that sense that you guys do that here at Palantir too, and I know that what a game changer Foundry was for you. Is there something else out there in the pipeline I don't know about that you could, I'm sure there is, but that you could disclose so I can think out a few years ahead of time?
There's the war products, which are literally take small countries and make them into juggernauts. Give everybody a slingshot. Every small country gets the power slingshot Palantir and can slay the monster coming to attack them, and there's a number of them, and they're operationally useful and very.
I think we're watching one of them. It's not so small, but
yeah. Well,
he was talking about Ukraine and Russia there.
Yeah, and it's having an enormous impact. And then there's the further uses of Foundry, which are really just at the beginning, actually using Foundry operationally. And there's Apollo. So we're in a world where the outside organizations are disjoined and disjuncted and need vertical and horizontal integration to interact with their clients and with regulators and with supply chains. They have the same exact problem with software on the inside, which is how we actually have grown from a tiny company with not growing headcount, but because we maintain our software with a product. Every single company, every single government in the world will essentially have to build something like this or buy it from us. And it's a very, very hard product to build. And that product is, like many of our products, kind of looks very not sexy in the beginning, but then powers a lot of the action.
This was really interesting, and I wanted to show this right here because it goes back to how Palantir thinks of their business. So Stanley Druckenmiller is basically saying, look, Steve Jobs broke the number one rule of business, which is I'm going to build something and people will come. And if you've been involved in business ever in any capacity in your life, you know that rarely ever happens, that you just build something and then people come flock to you. You have to usually go find people and build something for them. Well, when you build something and people come to you, it means the product must be exceptional. It means it must be so revolutionary, so interesting that people just are captivated by the product. Palantir, that's the obvious philosophy that governs the organization, but in enterprise SaaS, which is a bit different from B2C businesses, you're not just going to have companies come to you and say, hey, can we buy your product? Like, some of that will happen, but if you want to scale to be a very, very big company, you've got to be able to sell. So I think there's a couple of points in that, and the timing of that video, they're very interesting. In September of 2022, he asked, hey, do you have anything that I don't know about? And at that time, I honestly don't think Palantir had the idea of what AIP would look like. I think they just knew, okay, well, we have these war products, they're enhancing Foundry, et cetera, et cetera. ChatGPT didn't go mainstream yet. But they knew that the ontology was going to be vital in some capacity at some point, even more than what they expected. ChatGPT goes mainstream. Palantir has been working on AI, for decades at this point. AIP becomes obvious, that the LLMs are just a new computational model. Shyam is about to talk about that in the next clip we react to. And you need to organize all that information in the context of the reality of your organization, which means you have to have data, which is the ontology. So it's funny that he says, hey, do you have any products that I don't know about? And I don't even think Palantir knew that they would end up betting the company. Quite literally, make no mistake about it. They bet the entire farm on AIP in April of 2023. And so far, it seems like it's working. So it goes to the fact that Steve Jobs had this idea that if I build a product, people will come to me, and it'll be a product that's so good that it'll sell itself. Palantir's in the same boat with AIP. The product is so good, it sells itself. However, the nuance here is that enterprise software is not going to sell itself until you show it to people, and then it has a chance to sell itself, which is the boot camps. So the boot camps to me are so interesting because that is literally, and I've been saying this for a year now, the product selling itself. That is AIP and Foundry selling themselves. But you do have to go through the due diligence of organizing the infrastructure to have a bootcamp, to get people to even be able to use the product, have their actual data implemented in operational workflows so that they have a chance to go from pilot to potential paying customer after seeing it in real time, which is fundamentally different from a PowerPoint or a pitch deck or a steak dinner when you're trying to sell to an enterprise client. So Palantir is not like Apple in the fact that, people are not just rushing to Foundry the way they were rushing to the iPhone, but once they get their hands on the product, which means you do have to figure out how to at least show it to them, which is the process of selling, and then you show them how to use it, then the product does sell itself. And it's a way better experience than a lot of enterprise SaaS platforms and the way enterprise SaaS companies try to sell. So I think that's the really interesting part about Stanley Druckenmiller talking about kind of the visionary nature of Palantir and Alex Karp in relationship to Steve Jobs. Now, in terms of him buying the stock, I like it. Druckenmiller is a legend. A lot of people yesterday probably saw his 13F disclosures and were like, Palantir. 700,000 shares for him, not a lot. And I expect him to add over the course of the next couple of years. He's paying a premium, so he probably wants to scale into it slowly. But if he sold 71% of his NVIDIA position, I don't think that means NVIDIA is going to collapse. I think it's just like, you have like a $200 average. It's at $950. You should probably take some profits. And now he's like, well, where's my next 5X? Where's my next, $20 to $100 versus $200 to $900? And I think so far, and hopefully we get to, hear from him in the future in terms of how he thinks about Palantir, because he's been an early investor for so long, I'm sure he understands the value of Palantir. The question is, how big does he think it can get? And I think he thinks there is a chance for this thing to get very big, which is why he's back in the stock. All right, going from Stanley Druckenmiller, let's react to a clip from Shyam. We were just talking about AI, the future of LLMs. I asked him specifically about this question. For those that didn't see the interview, I'll put it in the description. But this is one part of the interview. It's about 2 minutes that I wanted to react to because I thought Shyam had some really good insights as well on AI in the enterprise. Here we go. The rise of LLMs, we talked a little bit about AIP bootcamps, have basically revolutionized how the world thinks about machine learning, AI, business intelligence. This one talk you did a while ago, your theme was don't think of LLMs as chat, think of them as compute. Sort of a new form of infrastructure for the entire modern enterprise. The demos Arnie and I saw today were basically, it finally clicked to me why LLMs and AI goes beyond chat. What is your version of LLMs in the enterprise outside of just a chatbot?
I think it's a new way of writing logic, writing functions. It doesn't replace traditional software. It really allows you to address a set of things traditional software couldn't do. And so when you have, this is a simplistic way of thinking about it, but to a first approximation, it's good. LLMs give you infinite on-demand intern capacity. Now, if you stare at the workflow that you're currently trying to solve, you can decomp that workflow into expert reasoning, intern reasoning, traditional software, and AI. Now, how you assemble this into an elegant workflow is the magic of AIP. And you never had that intern level reasoning, and the harder you look at some of these problems, the more you realize how much you can do. Like let's use patient discharge at a hospital. If you've ever had a medical procedure, the worst part is waiting to be discharged. It is a catastrophe. And if you really think about it, the way certainly medicine works is you have this care guideline. People have in English or in some language, human language, they've written down how this should work. Now, how do I take the clinical record, the care guidelines, and understand, is this patient eligible for discharge? Can they go to a discharge lounge, or do I need to occupy this bed? By the way, not only does it suck as the patient to occupy that bed, that means someone else who actually needs care cannot occupy that bed. Correct. Right. So there's all these and if you're a nurse, which my mom was, at the end of a 14-hour shift, this is hard to deal with, right? Like, it would be nice to have an army of infinite on-demand interns helping you go through this, making your job more efficient. And I think as you start looking at the landscape, if you're a supply chain manager, if you're in the legal profession, if you're dealing with procurement, there's so many places that you can get leverage on top of this.
So I thought this point made a lot of sense, man. And we know Palantir's moat in the healthcare space. But the example he puts out right there, it clicked to me even deeper as I was talking to Palantir employees at the expo, that when we think about LLMs, we have to think more. When Alex is like when Alex Karp says poetry or self-pleasuring, things of that nature, by asking a question and getting some random answer from an LLM. That's not what LLMs can actually do. What LLMs, for the enterprise, the LLMs can actually transform the entire paradigmatic shift that the enterprise engages in to be able to deliver value. And the example Shyam puts out there, I think, is just phenomenal around patient discharge. And then you go into staffing and scheduling with nurses. And because his mom was a nurse, which I felt like I knew that, but when he said it again, it reminded me of like an old talk I probably heard him talk about, where he said his mom was a nurse. And then it also clicked again. I was like, oh yeah, this is why he's also very passionate about individual people living their own life. They're not a tech billionaire trying to make their lives easier, which has always been the goal of Palantir. Like, how do we implement this piece of software in this hospital for this nurse? And when you're the CTO of a company and you're managing the tech, you're the chief technology officer, and you've had a mom who was a nurse, and you know how much struggles nurses go through, then you take it a little bit more personally and say, hey, how do we actually make this meaningful? Because if your mom had infinite AI agents to help her with nurse scheduling or being able to make sure when this patient gets this drug, when this patient leaves this bed, that changes everything. My grandfather was in the hospital 2 years ago, 2022, and I saw the stuff the nurses had to go through just to be able to make sure everything was on track. And like, I could just imagine if you had some type of LLM that is the computational infrastructure of just that one hospital in just one task. We saw Mount Sinai Hospital a couple months ago said that they saved $1.5 million they made $1.5 million of ROI off the money they spent on Palantir software in one department of one part of the hospital. You start to realize that if an entire hospital adopted it, or an entire healthcare system like the NHS adopted it, or multiple hospitals and healthcare systems across the world adopted it, it can get really big really quickly. So from that perspective, and it's going back to what Stanley Druckenmiller said, you guys are trying to solve problems that haven't been solved yet. The rest of the world eventually will come to you when you show them the solution to those problems. I think that's exactly what Palantir is doing with AIP, in particular in the healthcare space. And now it's just a question of how fast they can scale that. All right, last thing for today. So you guys might have seen this, you guys might have not seen this, but Palantir launched a consumer product. Now, not a product where literally you can like manage all your data and it's like a personal AIP or assistant for you, but it's a consumer product in the fact that consumers can log in and sign up and start using it. And they launched this at the AI Expo. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, or last week when I was in DC. But here's one of the videos of one of their engineers talking about this, and you can sign up on this website. They're offering free trial access to the first 100 users to sign up. So people might have already signed up already, but you can still sign up, I believe, and get registered. This is what it looks like right here. And you get $500 free of AI usage as well. Basically, once you enter inside, you get access to a ton of different AIP workflows, and you get access to Foundry. You're able to build with AIP. There's a lot of stuff you can do here, and you can put in your credit card, and it's kind of the things we've been asking for with AIPNow. We talked about it a couple of months ago, where if you sign up immediately and you can sign up with your credit card and you can start using, can Palantir scale with tons and tons of customers? Are these technically customers? I don't know how they would necessarily count that on the earnings, but these are people that are generating revenue, even if it's only a couple $100s a month for clients, which is what AWS does, which is what Snowflake does, because you can sign up, download immediately, put in your credit card, and get to use. And it seems like that's what Palantir is doing here as well. Here's one of the engineers talking exactly about what this is.
Hi, AIP builders. I'm Paul, and I've been an engineer at Palantir for 15 years. I'm here to introduce Build with AIP, a new showcase of reference examples, tutorials, and starter kits that help you as a developer build new AIP-powered applications as quickly as possible. These tutorials are built on 2 decades of Palantir experience, and we're putting those AI building blocks in your hands for the first time. Let's take a look at Build with AIP so you can see how to get started. Here we have the AIP homepage. This will be where you land when you first log into the platform, and it's the first screen you'll see when you enroll as a new tenant. At the top of the screen, we can see this Build with AIP callout that's enticing us to click in and learn how to actually build as a developer. Let's do that. As the page loads, we'll notice immediately that it's packed with dozens of guided tutorials and detailed hands-on examples that will teach us how to build AI-powered applications. This collection of starter kits all ships on day 1. I think the best way to understand the depth of each example is to click in. So let's go to semantic search, the starter kit at the top, click in and see what we get. Okay, each example here steps us through everything we need, from data integration to creating and training AI-powered models, to building a robust ontology, to ultimately wiring the end results up to a user-facing front end that'll allow us to orchestrate real-time operations with AIP. For semantic search, that means we're shipping with a working data transformation pipeline that'll show us how to ingest and extract text from example PDFs. It also means we're showing how to split those documents into meaningful chunks and then create semantic search embeddings with included AI models. You can, of course, swap those out and bring your own. Ultimately, this all culminates in a working document search UI that's included so we can best see how this all wires up to a user-facing application. In short, everything I need to get started with AIP is included in these starter kits. Build with AIP is available now to any developer with an AIP enrollment. Stay tuned in the coming weeks where we'll ship additional videos walking through these reference examples in depth. We're excited to see what you build.
All right, so that is one of Palantir's new initiatives where essentially they're saying, hey, anyone in the world now can sign up, put in their credit card, get access to all these different workflows and modules on Build with AIP, and start building AI applications. I think it's really cool. I think they're going to announce a lot of new updates to this over the coming months, and it is one of the ways it seems like they're trying to really scale to SMBs and just average people, developers, people that are just building their own products. So that, instead of going to the BPs and the Airbuses of the world, they can at least get random people across the world to sign up, get used to the software, understand what it looks like, and then if those people really want to inquire and use it at a much more mature level, they have the potential to use it, or even pay as they go, which is the consumption model that Amazon and Snowflake thrive on. That is something that it seems like can be implemented on Palantir, and this is the new initiative to get that done. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody, for being here on this episode of Daily Palantir. I will see you guys tomorrow. Stanley DRUCKENMILLER is back. Very big news. Excited to see him back into the company. And now we just got to see, does he start buying more shares? Because if he starts loading up, it's going to get really interesting. A lot of people follow this guy. They respect this guy. He is a legend when it comes to investing. And I'm happy he's back inside of Palantir. Thank you, everybody, for being here. DailyPalantir.substack.com newsletter. I'm back writing my newsletter every single day. Make sure you check it out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone.